Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Barakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. Shabbat Shalom. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Jeremiah chapter 49, verse 20. Therefore, hear the counsel of Yahweh that he hath taken against Edom. And the biblical Edomites are known today as these so-called white people, so-called Caucasians, these Americans, the British, Europeans, Russians, and the small hats over in the Holy Land right now. They are of the tribe of Amalek. And his purposes that he hath purposed against the inhabitants of Teman, the German Edomites, which, interestingly enough, after World War II, a lot of those Amalekites migrated from Central and Eastern Europe to the Holy Land. And, Germany is located in Central Europe. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. And that least of the flock is talking about those Amalekite Edomites over in the Holy Land right now, calling themselves Israelis's, or the JOOs, who for the rest of the video I'll be referring to as the 1948ers. They're going to do something to spark a wider war in the so-called Middle East, which is really Western Asia. And we saw what's happened over the last couple of weeks. The 1948ers bombed Iran's embassy in Syria, and then a couple of days ago, Iran did a retaliatory strike. Things are just constantly heating up over in that region, and eventually it's going to spark off, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon, the main part of World War III in Joel chapter 3. And as it said, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. On the side of the 1948ers, the United States of America, as well as these other NATO nations, and on the side of, Iran, who, at the end of the day, it's going to be something between the 1948ers and Iran that's going to play into this bigger battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. But on the side of Iran, nations like Russia and China. And I opened up the video with this verse to preface a clip from Redacted's YouTube channel titled, U.S. Marine Scott Ritter, as an American, I am scared over what's about to happen. And Scott Ritter's going to go into, this situation that just took place with Iran's limited bombing of the 1948ers, which at first the mainstream Western media was saying that, the 1948ers defenses pretty much stopped everything Iran was throwing at them. But as more and more information's been coming out, Iran was able to get past the 1948ers, defense systems. And even then, Iran has come out and said, look, this has been a limited strike, just to show you that we can touch you. If we really wanted to handle some business on you, we could have done it. And now you've got the 1948ers saying we're about to do a retaliatory strike on that. The least of the flock shall draw them out. And while, we're going to continue to see tit for tats and flare-ups here, the Battle of the Valley of Jehoshaphat will not truly kick off until the MOTB in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18. The MARKOFTHEBEAST is mandatorily implemented. And the MOTB is the RFID/NFC C-hip implant in the hand or in the forehead, which we can see with each passing day. We're getting closer and closer to the rollout of these CBDCs and central bank digital currencies, and talks about using C-hips in your body for everyday use. And then what do we just have? Elon Musk's Neuralink have its first successful human trial. All the pieces of biblical prophecy are coming into place because we truly are living in the last days, really the last seconds of the last days. But I'm going to play about the first 3 or 4 minutes of this video, and this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes.
Well, the truth about Iran's attack on Israel is now coming out. If you read the mainstream media, though, Iran didn't even leave a scratch on Israel with the launch of hundreds of drones, dozens of cruise missiles. You might see headlines like this. Take a look. 99% of Iran's aerial threat were shot down. But the truth is starting to come out despite a media blackout. You're not even allowed to enter into those areas to get photos or videos to share on social media. And the New York Times is now reporting that Israel is about to respond and launch an attack of its own against Iran within 48 hours. So a retaliation for a retaliation, I guess. Again, this is according to the New York Times. We want to bring in former U.S. Marine, former UN Weapons Inspector Scott Ritter, who late last week said this attack was about to happen, and you were proven correct. It did happen. And do you think, Scott, that we're going to see, first of all, we'll get into the details about the attack in just a moment, but do you think we're going to see an Israeli response here with this war cabinet being convened? What do you think the next 48 hours is going to look like?
Well, I think what we're seeing right now is domestic Israeli politics writ large. This has nothing to do with the security of Israel from a traditional standpoint. This has everything to do with the political survivability of Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister who oversaw, the greatest security failure in Israeli history on October 7th when Hamas attacked Israel, and now has presided over, what some people might even say is an even greater security failure, the inability of Israel to prevent Iran from reaching out and touching with ballistic missiles a strategic defense sites that were protected by the best ballistic missile defense that Israel and American money could buy. So there's some posturing taking place right now. I bring up as much as I can the following reality. No American president in modern era has won election by turning his back on Israel. And no Israeli prime minister has stayed in office by turning his back on the United States. And right now you have a situation where Joe Biden, because of the outlandish behavior of Israel, is starting to turn his back. He made it clear that America would not stand side by side with Israel if it.
And hey, you're having a lot of news come out now saying, hey, if the 1948ers do something, America's not going to get involved, which this is all just theater of war. At the end of the day, the United States of America will back the 1948ers. This is just a little bit of speculation here. Say, if and when the 1948ers do their strike, the U.S. doesn't immediately come to their back, and then Iran does a retaliatory strike, what would that do? That would compel, these American politicians to say, look at what happened. We didn't defend the 1948ers, so Iran really let loose on them. We have to show that we have the 1948ers back, whether it's Biden or whether, this further shows Biden as a weak president to bring Donald Trump back in, which at the end of the day, your votes don't matter. It's already been pre-selected who's going to be the president. But regardless, the United States of America will come to the 1948ers' aid. The least of the flock will draw out the Northern Army, which is all a part of biblical prophecy as well. This is Joel chapter 2, verse 20. But I will remove far off from you the Northern Army, the North American Army, the United States military, all branches, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Air Force, etc., and will drive him into a land barren and desolate. It's like a desert, the Middle East. And, this is mainly talking about Saudi Arabia, which is going to be the staging ground for the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. Every war that the U.S. has fought in the Middle East, they've launched it from where? Saudi Arabia or Kuwait. The U.S. has a heavy military presence in Saudi Arabia with his face toward the East Sea. And when we go to a map of the Middle East, we have Saudi Arabia right here. And to the east, what do you see? The Persian Gulf. And above the Persian Gulf, what? Iran. the main target of the 1948ers, as well as the U.S. in the Middle East. Just look up something called the Oded-Yinon Plan. And also, there's been a lot of speculation that, when a war with Iran does kick off, what are they going to do? Cut off the Strait of Hormuz, which a lot of oil flows through, which would throw, the global economy into a turmoil, and that would further compel the U.S. to get involved against Iran. And his hinder part, or behind him, towards the utmost sea, which that's the Red Sea. And what do you have at the bottom of it? Yemen. And all in the Red Sea, you've got the U.S. and British navies going at it with the Houthi rebels. Hey, it's a tinderbox over there, and that fuse will get lit. Hey, you can say the fuse has already been lit. And his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he hath done great things. And there's going to be a great slaughter of U.S. military personnel, as well as these other heathens as militaries in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. So if you're a U.S. soldier that finds yourself down there for this battle, hey, come to terms with that being your final resting place. Hey, but regardless, no matter what happens or how it plays out, at the end of the day, that Northern Army, the U.S., is going to come to the least of the flock, the 1948ers' aid.
Attacked Iran. And we have a prime minister in Israel that's telling the president of the United States, I don't care what you say, I don't care what you do. We're going to behave this way anyways. The motivations of both men are inherently political. Joe Biden is running for re-election, and he can't have another war. He can't have a war with Iran that would create an energy security crisis. Again, I remind your audience that under Biden's leadership, the Strategic Petroleum Reserve of the United States is down to less than 17 days. That's a little over 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen, of economic viability should Iran shut the Strait of Hormuz and start launching attacks against critical oil-producing infrastructure in the region, which would be a byproduct of any American participation in an Israeli strike. Israel can't launch and sustain a viable military action against Iran without American assistance. So what's happening right now is the Israelis are saying to America, we're going to start this war anyways, and we just assume that you're going to come alongside us because you'll have no choice. And that put
The least of the flock shall draw them out.
Biden in an even further, political quandary. I would like to believe that a lot of this is debate for political consumption. The fact that we're reading about this in the New York Times and the Israeli press means that there's people who want us to be reading about this. And I think that's important because it shows posturing. So Benjamin Netanyahu and the cabinet could say, we wanted to strike, but we were held back by the United States, and shift the political responsibility to the United States. I still don't believe that Israel would launch and can launch an attack against Iran, because the consequences of such would be dire. Iran
ultimately will be dire for you heathens. It's going to play into the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the War of Armageddon, which will go nuclear. But that's it with that clip. Now I'm going to go to Joel chapter 3, verse 9. Proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, the heathen Gentiles. Prepare war, World War III, the battle in the Valley of Jehoshaphat, war with Iran, the War of Armageddon. Wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, which we can clearly see. These different nations are getting geared up in that region for war. Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say I am strong, which with Iran finally doing retaliatory strikes on the Holy Land that the 1948ers are in, that's definitely the weak saying they're strong, as well as those Houthi rebels constantly, attacking U.S., British, and 1948er assets in that region. And then you've got Hezbollah and these other forces. Verse 11, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, the United States of America, the state of the 1948ers, Iran, Russia, China, Turkey, these other NATO nations, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Yahweh. the death angels holding back this great destruction, waiting to get the go-ahead to release it. Hey, those angels bound in the great river Euphrates. And that is mainly going to happen, like I said earlier, after the mandatory implementation of the MOTB, the C-hip implant. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is Yahweh's Shaphat in the Hebrew, Yahweh's judgment. For there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. And when you go up to the first couple of verses in this chapter, you'll see the ultimate reason behind this. The Most High judging you heathens, chiefly you Edomites, for afflicting the apple of his eye, the true children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come get you down, for the press is full, the fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes, multitudes in the valley of decision, for the day of Yahweh is near in the valley of decision. And we can clearly see that that day is getting nearer and nearer. Apostle Tahar has also deemed 2024 to be the hopeful year of Jacob's trouble. And hey, this year started off with a bang, and it's just been getting hotter and hotter. But I'm going to close it out in Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, referring to World War I. And behold, there come two woes more hereafter, World War II, which is past, and World War III, which is upon us. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shabbat Shalom.